A session on rain. What do you think, Tom? So, I know a lot of people they traveled. It takes time to get here. It's not just paying. It's the hotel rooms. It's the flights. It's the coordination. It's the I'm on the fence. Am I going to go? Where's the value? I'm just really happy that everyone was able to make it. There are a lot of new faces, which is just great because that's what we intend. This is what we're all about. We try to reach out to as many people as possible, and it's just great to see a lot of new faces and a lot of people. Everyone has just been saying so many positive things. Everybody's so willing to share information. Everybody's so willing to work together, and that's what it's about. You know, we make an investment into these units, and they're not cheap. You know, the entry is it's a high ticket item, and we should all be protecting that investment and not devaluing the investment. So, one of the best reasons, one of the most, there's many reasons, but one that really sticks out is just that: protecting your investment, not devaluing your investment, and just doing it smart and fair. You know, that's so important. You want to be successful. Obviously, we have a lot of bills to pay, insurance and rent and payroll and all that good stuff. But it's important that you protect your investment, and that's what we want to do. So if anybody has any questions about pricing, ask those questions. Talk to the people next to you. Hey, how do you deal with this situation? How do you deal with that situation? Multi-days. A lot of people, we have a 1-day rate, but how about the 3-day rate or a week rate or a month rate? Seems like sometimes people are on point with the 1-day, 2-day, 3-day, but then, you know, it's kind of the 1 week or the 1 month seems to be kind of all over the place. So that's conversations that we should be having amongst each other. We don't necessarily have to do it up here, but I encourage that conversation because that's what is going to protect your investment. So this session is not about that. It's about COVID. It's about the pivot. How many people, who had COVID? Anybody get COVID? Anybody like me spend 3 days in the hospital with COVID? Yeah, it was pretty bad. So, is that what it is? So, in February of 2020, we had the Mobile Stage Conference right here, and it seems like yesterday. It was really not that long ago. 2 years have passed, and so much has changed. Our entire industry has changed. 3 weeks later, we're on lockdown. I think everybody kind of gained a new perspective of what's important in life through COVID, spending time with loved ones and family members. And unfortunately, we lost a lot of people along the way. I mean, too many people, industry people, friends, family. It was a hard hit. It was definitely a hard hit. But we're all here. We survived. And I want to focus on the pivot. So, you know, you hit with this brick wall and this obstacle, and it's like, okay, what are we going to do? All the gigs were can't. It's like trickle effect. One gig, the next gig, and it's like, what do we do? But in reality, we're all in it together. We all went through this together. We all went through this experience, the similar situations of what happened during COVID. So I would like to, I'm going to probably call some people. If I call out you, I'd love for you to come up here and share some of that. So, hey, Scott, could you come up here? Scott Thompson. You guys know Scott? Everybody know Scott from Orlando? And Rich, could you join us up here? Rich Benning from the D.C. area. Good friends. We're all friends. We do business with each other. We try to help elevate each other. Have a seat, guys. We try to help elevate each other. And what I want to do is I want to share the actual story. What did you do to pivot in COVID? How did you survive the storm? I just want to get that conversation open. So, in case you did not know, I'm not only in the mobile stage business, but we also have a parade flow company that my niece Adriana is pretty much all thing parade floats, and she does an amazing job. And obviously, all these outdoor large scale events were completely canceled, so there was really nothing happening there. But we are a fabrication company in that we build our own trailers, our own parade float trailers. And we did that for quite a while. I think we built about 16 or 17 parade float trailers. And so during COVID, we just started building trailers, repairing trailers, and building utility trailers, enclosed trailers. And that was kind of our pivot. Also trying to be innovative. And then came all of these outdoor events, the graduations, the dance recitals, and it was just a whole new day for the outdoor open air events industry, which we're lucky to all be a part of. And I think just being really smart about your decisions. We all make mistakes. I mean, we probably have the only way that you can really be successful at something is mistakes, failures. We all learn from our failures, and I've probably had more failures than successes, but that's kind of what makes us all successful. But I don't want to get off topic. So that was the way that we pivoted. We started to build more trailers, but we were confronted with the logistics of getting parts and axles and tires and rims. So that was definitely a challenge. And now that everything is coming back and we're firing on all cylinders, so to speak, and it was a slow progress to come back. Now we have a successful trailer manufacturing company and a lot of demand for the stages. I hear the wait times are a little like delayed because of the demand, which is it's good for our industry. It was an incredible challenge. It really was an incredible challenge. So Rich is from the DC area. We do business together. We know each other for a really, really long time. From my production days, I used to have a company called Festive Productions. Before I got into the mobile stage industry, I was actually a DJ guy. So that's kind of like a lot of people have audio engineer backgrounds where they start, DJ backgrounds, event planning backgrounds, and kind of that's how we all got into the business. And then Scott, I know for many years, he's one of the first supporters of the Mobile Stage Conference. He put up his own SL100 just to kind of be a part of it. He was all in. He was like, what do we need to do? How can I help? And I think that's the spirit of this event. How can we help each other? So I'm going to pass the microphone over, and I guess, Rich, you can start. Just explain, like, COVID. Let's go through the motions, what you did to pivot, and go ahead.
Yeah, Rich. Are we on, guys? Guys, are we on? Can anybody, you guys hear me? Okay, sorry. Sorry, I wasn't planning on speaking, so this is off the cuff, which is fine. So we left the Mobile Stage Convention 2 years ago. Flew home without a mask. No thoughts about that. All of a sudden when COVID came on, I was real happy that it was under a tent outside. I was feeling a little bit better about all that. We had been looking at a historic spring. If it wasn't historic, it was going to be one of our best springs ever. The numbers were just doing this, and we were like, this is fantastic. And within a week, it went from that to nothing. And complete nothing. And I got together with my management team. We have about 35 employees at that point in time. We've had as many as the mid-40s, but I think we were running 35, 36 people at that point in time. And we decided everybody had to get laid off. And that was the hardest decision in my life. I'd never had to do anything quite like that. I broke down, actually, while telling. We did it in 2 groups. And my general manager finished up for me because you start a company like this, you build it from the ground up. This was never something that you were planning on doing, especially when it's completely out of control. And I laid myself off. I laid my wife off. We were all laid off. And I came into the office every day, and for 5-6 weeks, nothing happened. I mean, I talked to other people on the phone. I talked to lawyers. I talked to bankers. I talked to financial people. Interestingly enough, I reached out to them first, and I evidently was the first one that they were hearing from. My bankers looking at me like I got two heads when I'm like, you need to find a way to move our payments to the end. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, what do you mean, what am I talking about? What are you talking about? And my financial guy who does all our 401k, he says, I was the first one to call him, and I said, we're going to have to cut this for now. He started reaching out to his clients because this is what was going on at that point in time. And, we thought this would be a couple weeks, and obviously, as we know now, it then became a couple months, and then became 14 months is what it ended up being. We supported everybody that was on our payroll by, continuing to pay all of their health insurance, which ended up being quite a sum. And we didn't want to pull people off of unemployment, so we got creative on how we were taking care of them as the few small jobs that would eke in over the next 6 months. I'm not going to get myself in trouble in case there's any IRS people sitting here, but let's put it that way. And really, it wasn't to benefit us because it became more difficult for us to deal with that. But I really, really, really wanted to take care of them the best I could, which was not pull them off of unemployment, put them back on unemployment. And we had a little bit of work. Being in the D.C. area, there was some BLM work up there. There's always some political work, whether it be Trump or anti-Trump, whichever your side on, it doesn't matter. In D.C., we're with the Green Party. Whoever has the green, we go there. It was enough to keep the lights on. We learned an awful lot about government programs like PPP and EIDL, and we were able to get all of those. I still have a whole bunch of money sitting in the bank from EIDL that I'm hoping to pay back this spring, but I wanted to get through the winter before I started thinking about giving this pile of money back to the federal government. And by the way, this is not free money. We are paying an interest rate on this every month, but it's a low interest rate. And, and now with interest rates going up, we will now reconsider how that's going. I digress. But we were able to take care of PPP, and October we brought everybody back that wanted to come back. And a number of people had decided to shift to something else, which we fully supported. As a matter of fact, when we let everybody go, we said, this may be a good time for you to consider another industry because, anyway, so we brought everybody back for October with the understanding that they'd be let go in about 8 weeks with the PPP money. We were able to stretch out another 2 weeks, go about 10, so just before Christmas, and then we let everybody go again. We got the second round of PPP, and we're able to, and I kept at that point I kept 2 people on payroll through the winter because we had enough going on, and we wanted to make sure that our gear was in decent shape. We were hopeful that come spring things would come back around. We got the second round of PPP, and we started getting phone calls for graduations. And every school district that was a school district, whether they were private or public, wanted to have an outdoor graduation, and the money be damned for the most part. And so we brought everybody back in May, and for 6 weeks we did graduations left, right, and sideways. And we normally do about 80% indoor work, 20% outdoor work. We were doing 95 to 100% outdoor work. And we owned several thousand Bill Jacks. And we got to a point during that where every deck we owned was out somewhere because we were dictating when it went up and when it came down because we didn't have the manpower to put it up and down on your schedule. It just wasn't going to happen. But we did have the decks and that sort of thing, so we could set it up a week early, take it down a week early. And so all of a sudden, business was back. But I was very concerned. That was about a 6-week period where all that was going on. What was going to happen after that? And amazingly, it seamlessly transitioned into outdoor work. And with all our mobile stages, we had our best mobile stage season ever. And we've been doing mobile stages a long, long time. But we also were doing other types of stages and other outdoor activities as well. And so we're watching that all progress to about October, and I'm wondering what's going to happen now as it's getting cold in the D.C. area. And amazingly, that transitioned into indoor work. And we've still been doing indoor and a little bit of outdoor work since then. So the business is mostly back. We certainly didn't have the kind of year that we normally would have had, but we had enough to cover, especially with government assistance. This spring is looking really good. About 2/3 of our employees came back, and that we don't want any more than that right now because too many employees, if I have to lay them all off, it's just too hard. And we're doing more with less. We found that some of the positions that we had when we were big and fat, and that's really what happens when things are going well, were redundant positions that weren't necessary. I'm working a little harder than I used to. Great. Happy to do it. I'm taking a little less money than I used to. Great. Happy to do it. You know, maybe I was overpaid too. I was definitely overpaid too. So, but, you know, there's benefits as a business owner, but you've got to take over. I mean, I was going out and putting up 100s. I was going up, I mean, I was driving them. You know, all of those things that had to happen. As a matter of fact, during COVID, I went out and got my A-class CDL because, as you all know, trying to find drivers during this is a very difficult situation. So I'd had a B-class before, so it wasn't that difficult. And I don't want to drive tractors every day. You know, I don't want to put stages up every day, but I'll do whatever I have to do to keep it going. It's not just for me, it's for my employees. I mean, you know, without them, I've got nothing. And so I see us doing a bunch more outdoor work than we did before. We're happy to do indoor work. As you can see, it's a little easier with indoor work because you don't have these rain and snow and that sort of thing problems. We also bought a brand new 260 right in the middle of COVID. It was already on order. And you scratched your head a little bit, but I'm like, we're going to need it. I can't, because we had already sold the 250 that we had to get ready to get the 260. And it was a good decision because it was going out. We bought the screen support to go over top of it so you can fly an LED wall over top of the roof. And, you know, how did we pivot? I think just mostly adapting to the situation, taking the work we had. During COVID, I put tents up a few times. I never put tents up. Unless you get a stage, you can have a tent. You don't get a stage, you don't get a tent. And we put up tents, you know, just to keep the lights on. Pretty much it's a matter of do whatever you got to do until things come back to normal, at least for us up there. And, you know, we feel good at this point. If there's not a whole lot more variants and that sort of thing that come down that freak people out, I think all of us in this room and everyone out there is just tired. And we have to live with this thing that is COVID at this point in time. I mean, we can't be shut down anymore. It's not going to work. I mean, I know at least a half a dozen companies that aren't around anymore. And I did not want to be one of them, and I'm not one of them. But, you know, if you were on the edge, I think financially it was just a lot of a hit. And if you were deeply leveraged, you know, and this business with a mobile stage costing sometimes $500,000, it's not hard to become heavily leveraged. So watch your numbers, you know, make sure that you can handle whatever payments that are coming forward if you're going to leverage, because who knows when this kind of thing could happen again. Let's hope never. But so that's my story. Thanks.
Yeah, you guys hear me all right? So yeah, we're kind of, I guess you could say we're maybe on the opposite side of that as far as we're quite a bit smaller than your company. We just have a couple SL100s and SL75. And so we've kept things pretty lean. We've got 2 or 3 guys that help us out. I actually do a lot of the stages myself, which is probably not a great idea to do all the time, but I might have the record of setting up SL100s personally. As far as COVID is concerned for us, I mean, we had a really strong fourth quarter in 2019, and that really helped push us into the new year. I remember when it all started coming down, my wife and I were in St. Augustine and for spring break on our sailboat, and the Irish pubs were closing on St. Patrick's Day, and I was like, okay, it's real now. So we all our gigs started canceling, and then we're like, okay, well, I guess we're just going to sit on the sailboat. And luckily, we had one client that actually everything canceled for us. And then we had a celebrity fitness trainer that contacted us. All her studios all around the United States had closed down. She couldn't fly to them. And she needed a stage in her backyard so that she could do YouTube videos. And she rented that thing from us for 3.5 months. So we got really lucky to have that. Yeah, as far as like pivoting, I would say that we got a lot of churches that contacted us to do drive-ins. And that was really, really nice to have. And we even got to the point where like there was so little amount of gigs. I think in that 6-month period after March, we may have had like 5 shows total, and then it started picking up like October of 2020, and but having those churches really helped out. But there was a time when we were really considering just taking those things out where we had them stored, put them at like a family property, shutting off the insurance, and just closing the doors. Like that was where we were at. It just didn't make sense. But we kept everything going. We kept the insurance going. It was a pretty tough time, other than the fact that we got to sit on our sailboat for 4.5 months in the Keys, but that's besides the point. So it was tough in one sense, and I guess you could say good in another. But so when it all picked back up in October, it started to, we're like, okay, it looks like this thing is gonna, go away hopefully soon. But that's pretty much our story. And still, the churches are calling to this day, like they're still doing drive-ins, and so we're real thankful for that. So.
All right. How about a big round of applause for these guys? That was great. Off the cuff, thank you so much. Just hearing your story brings back my experience, the PPP, the EIDL, the money's still sitting there. What we're going to do. Big time learning curve. But as entrepreneurs, I guess we're resilient, and whatever it takes to make it happen. I was back in the truck driving, setting up stages where, I really hadn't been. My role was more in the office, and that was just non-existent. So laying off staff was really, really probably the hardest decision that anybody can make when it's beyond your control. But I'm just happy to say we're here. We all survived, and we're ready to take it to the next level, back to those 2019 numbers. And it's the future definitely looks promising. And anybody want to share anything? Go ahead. Come on up here. You guys know Corey? Corey's a big supporter, big supporter from day one.
Hey guys, man, this is awesome. Like I haven't seen you guys since the last time we were here, and business is coming back. So like, I'm just really happy to see all the faces. The one thing I wanted to say, because everybody heard this, it was, how are you going to pivot? How are you going to pivot? A lot of us view ourselves as entrepreneurs. We're constantly fixing the most insane problems. In our industry, it's not the same thing every day. It sometimes feels like it, but we're always getting new challenges. The hardest thing for me during COVID was to realize that in my situation with what was going on, being okay with locking everything down and hunkering down and figuring out how to survive so I could be here still in the industry right now. I got the 1-2 punch. Well, no, I shouldn't call it a punch. Me and my wife didn't think we were able or going to have kids. My son Griffin was announced that I was having him right after I thought that my company was going to implode, and I had another mouth to feed, so I was freaking out and trying to figure out, how do I hustle, how do I make money with everything going on. And I had to come to a realization that I need to focus on my mental health. I need to be there for my family. I got to be strong for my family, and I need to make sure that for my business partner and his family that I make it so that we can make it through the lockdown, keep all the bills paid, stay in good standing with all of our partners, whether it be my insurance agent, my finance guy. Shout out if you don't know Artie. Artie was the first person on the phone figuring out how we were going to get payments moved around on my gear. Like, having those connections, keeping those connections tight so that, I could still, be in business now. And then, of course, with the growth that we're seeing, helping out other companies that weren't on the rebound the same way, I was able to pick up another company just regularly, and, the future looks bright. But, sometimes you can't find that next thing to make that money. I mean, I'm seeing you're building outdoor restaurant spaces. I'm like, man, that dude, Lano's just hustling. He's figuring out how to make a buck. What am I doing wrong? Maybe I'm not as smart as all of these guys that I hang out with regularly, but you know, I'm proud just because I made it through. My family made it through. We didn't lose the house. We didn't lose any cars. And now, you know, it's looking like, you know, the best year ever for me, and I hope for you guys too. So just congratulations to everybody for making it through, guys. You should all give yourselves a round of applause. Like, we'll tell our kids about this.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. Come on up, Jeff.
Hey, just real quick from a manufacturer standpoint, I'm sure you're all aware of this, but it was just an interesting dynamic, and I have a great example of what I'm about to say as one of my customers here. You know, in 2021, you know, roughly June, July, we didn't know what was going to happen. Nobody had a crystal ball, but I was able to, as a company, were able to sell some stages during a time where the people who were purchasing these stages were really, really rolling the dice. I mean, especially first-time buyers. Greg Hedge out of Indianapolis, for instance, he said, look, I've just got to have faith that this is going to end. Now, I'm buying the stage from you right now, and I'm going to be paying on a note for a stage that I'm not going to put to work until I don't know when. Is that a fair statement, Greg? Now Greg's killing it. In other words, the roll of the dice that he took in 2021, and then he waited. Now, by and large, the people who did that, and I'm sure you all know this, but if you rolled the dice in 2021 and said, well, I hope it comes out, and it does, and it did, now those guys are overbooked. I mean, now those guys, you know, really pat themselves on the back, rightfully so, that they went ahead and jumped off that cliff and took that job. The people who were calling me in 2021 saying, and I'd say, look, you know, I can chip away a couple of points for you, but, you know, this thing's, we're going to get out of this thing, and you're going to be glad you bought this stage, believe me. And the ones who didn't now are calling me, asking me when they can get one, and it's going to be a little while, at least for my company. So, you know, hats off to the people who took a chance in 2021 and went ahead and purchased, and now it's, by and large, it's paying off in spades. Is that a fair statement, Greg? So, yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Just, you know, sometimes roll the dice a little bit, I guess. But anyway, from a manufacturer standpoint, I felt that was interesting. Because 2021 was, for us, was just as, you know, hey, you know, is this going to be happening? You know, we're still going to be making it. And lucky enough we were, but thanks to guys who took chances with us. And now it's paying off for everybody. That's all.
Thank you. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Thank you.